In this lesson, I'll show you how to find the exact value using the cosine sum difference formula, and that's shown right here. The question reads, suppose that the terminal side of angle alpha lies in quadrant 4 and the terminal side of angle beta lies in quadrant 3. If cosine alpha is equal to 4 over 7 and sine beta is equal to negative 8 over 13, find the exact value of cosine alpha plus beta. The very first thing that I want to do is show you an illustration of these angles on an xy plane. Here's our Cartesian plane where that is y and this is x. And we're told that angle alpha lies in the fourth quadrant. This is the fourth quadrant, 1, 2, and 3. And we have a terminal side right here. So let's say this is our terminal side, and remember cosine generally is adjacent over hypotenuse. That's the ratio. And if that's the case, 4 represents our adjacent. So that's the angle there, and the acute angle that this terminal side makes up, let's call it alpha sub 1. If we use this as our angle, adjacent happens to be from here to here. So that right there is 4, and the hypotenuse is 7, according to that fraction. This is important for later. So just pretend that we have a little triangle here. That's our acute angle for alpha. Now the same thing can be done for beta. We're told that it's in the third quadrant. So I'll use another angle. And that terminal side is here. Sine is a ratio comparing opposite to hypotenuse. And that's important because sine beta is equal to negative 8 over 13. Negative 8 represents opposite of this acute angle, which I'll call beta sub 1. So opposite of that is negative 8, and the hypotenuse is 13. Okay, we need to find the exact value of cosine alpha plus beta, and the relationship is shown underneath. If it's alpha plus beta, then we use minus in between these two terms. If they were asking for alpha minus beta, then we would use positive. So let me write down the correct relationship. Cosine alpha plus beta is equal to cosine alpha cosine beta minus sine alpha sine beta. Let's begin with cosine alpha. We'll look at this triangle. Cosine alpha is adjacent over hypotenuse, so we have 4 over 7. So we can replace cosine alpha with 4 over 7. Now we have cosine beta, so we'll look at this triangle, and that's adjacent over hypotenuse. Unfortunately, we don't have the adjacent value. Since we're dealing with a right triangle, we can find it by using Pythagorean's theorem, and that's shown right here. We have the hypotenuse, it's 13, so I'll replace c with 13 squared, and I'll assign negative 8 as a. You should know how to solve this, it's really easy. Just take that over and then square root both sides. You should end up with 169 minus 64, and the square root of that is square root of 105. Leave it as the square root of 105. Do not find the actual value as a decimal. This is better. And since the square root of 105 can be positive or negative, we will be choosing the negative version because we are in this part of the Cartesian plane. It's this way. X values would be negative. So I will write down negative 105, that is my adjacent, over my hypotenuse, which is 13, minus, okay, now sine alpha, we'll look at this triangle. Sine alpha is opposite over hypotenuse. Opposite here is unknown, so again we have to use the Pythagorean theorem. Let me quickly do that for you. And if you do it correctly, you should end up with negative the square root of 33. You should end up with the square root of 33, but because this part represents y values that are less than 0, you should choose the negative version. So sine alpha, opposite is negative the square root of 33 over hypotenuse, which we determined was 7. and we have to find sine beta. Well, sine beta is easy. We can use the initial values that we were given. Opposite is -8 over the hypotenuse, and that is 13. Essentially, by calculating what we have here, you should end up with the exact value. Let's go ahead and do that. 4 over 7 bracket negative square root of 105 divided by 13 minus negative the square root of 33 over 7, close bracket, -8 over 13. And our final answer is around -0.95. That is the ratio representing alpha plus beta. And so there you have it. That is how to find the exact value using cosine sum difference formula.